Okay, so looking at syringes, first, I just wanted to show you guys what a typical oral syringe might look like. So again, it's gonna have how to tell it's oral. Is usually it'll say for oral use only, or you'll see a little tip here. That's just a sign for oral versus this kind of lure lock tip where it screws on, because you'd be able to screw on needles or screw it on to the hub of an IV, so like this. Okay, so these are typically for injections. Again, you can use it for oral. You would just want to check your facility policies because some might only allow you to use these because some places are just a little more strict. So just make sure you know your facility's policies. So we're not going to look at this guy. We're going to look at this 3 ml syringe. Again, we'll cover this a little more next week, but I just want to do a little intro since we are learning how to measure liquids. So we have our syringe, we have the tip, we have, I'm going to pull it apart. Ooh. We have a plunger, okay, and then let me see if I can bring it up closer. You have 2 little lines, okay. You have this lower one and then this top one. So whenever we are measuring, we are going off this top line. Okay, this one right here. And then this is our barrel. Okay, inside barrel. Let's see. Those are really kind of the main things. Again, I'm just going to show you what that line looks like once it's inside, and you never want to pull the plunger out. This is just for demonstration purposes. So let me see. Again, you have this bottom line here. We don't care about him. He's useless. He's just there to help hold in the suction so liquid doesn't fall out. What we care about and what we're using to read is this top line here, the one closest to this little tip, this little mount. But not all syringe plungers are going to have that little mount. Just know this top line is how we're measuring. So if we wanted to measure 2, that top line is what is aligned with that mark. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this out again. Again, how to know what volume we're measuring in is tough to see, but here it says ml, and we know that stands for milliliters. So we're measuring in milliliters. Our biggest number is 3. So we know that this is a 3 ml syringe. It would also tell us on our package. So here is right at 3 mLs. And as you can see, I can pull it a bit farther back. But there are no calibration markings underneath that 3, so I really don't know how much this is. Okay, I can't just guess and say that it's 4 because I don't know. And if I were to go to court and they were to ask me how I measured it out, and I say, oh, well, I just pulled back a little extra, they're going to ask me, well, how did you know that was the correct amount? And the answer is I didn't, because I'm just guessing. Okay, so here we have our little markings. Again, this is 0, like on our ruler. And then our first big number is half. And we're going to translate that to 0.5. Okay, 1/2 is the same as 0.5. It's half of 1. Okay, so I have 0.5 here, so I'm just going to count backwards until I get to this 0. 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, 0. Okay, so counting backwards and subtracting by just 0.1 gets me to 0. So I know that each line measures 0.1 mLs, 1/10 of a milliliter. Okay, another way you can do it is I have a student count. So she has her 0 line here, and she'll count each line until she hits her first long line. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So she would divide 0.5 divided by 5, and she would get 0.1. And that's how she would figure out how much this line is worth. Okay, and just remember that each syringe varies in how much each calibration is worth. So it's really important that you orientate yourself with each syringe so you know, because some have a value of 0.2 or even of 1. And one way that we can know that it's not a value of 1 ml or 0.2 ml is by looking at our long lines, these big numbers. So we see a whole number 1 and 2 here. So we know that each line is not worth 1 ml because it takes 5 lines to create, or 10 lines to create this big whole 1. Okay, we also know it doesn't go by 0.2 or 2/10 because our first big number is 0.5. 2 doesn't go into 5. Okay, so again, if I wanted to measure, well, let's just practice measuring something simple first. So if I wanted to measure if I need 1 ml of something, I'm going to take my plunger. That looks gross, but it's because I was scratching off a gift card thing and I can't get it out. Okay, so if I'm measuring 1, we're going to this line here, right here, okay? And we're looking at our second line, or excuse me, our top line on our plunger, and we're going to align our plunger line perfectly with that one. Okay, not like this. We want that plunger line directly on that one. So now let's say the doctor ordered and we did our dose calc and we need to give 1.2 mLs. So I know I'm going to have at least 1, right? So I know I'm going to be in this area, and I know each marking is worth 1/10. So I have 1, so that means this is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and then we have 1.5. Okay, so if I needed to draw up 1.2, I would just go to that second marking after the 1. Okay, so we have 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 0.9 doesn't change into 0.10 because 0.10 looks like this. And what is that? That's just 0.1. So when we have a 0.9, that extra number carries over into our whole number side, and we have 1. Or 1.0 if you need more of a visual. So again, 0.9, 1. So now we have 1.1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2. Okay, and so on. So biggest takeaways, when we are measuring, we use that top line to measure because there's no liquid in this little space here. Okay, this bottom thing is just to help hold fluid in, hold that section. What we are using to read and measure is that top line, like on this one too, which might be a little harder to see on video. There's this bottom line here, and then there's a top line We're using that top line to measure. Okay. And we'll just look at a different syringe here too, so I can show you how they're different and how their units are different. So again, we can tell that the barrel is bigger on this 5 ml. Again, how we know, we're just looking at the bottom and we can see that's the biggest number. So here again, we're going to look at our 1, our first number we see. So we can tell that each long line here is 1 ml. And then we have our 0. So I know, just I guess since I've been doing this for a while, I'm going to count backwards from 2. So I have 1, which is and our whole number 1. So then we go minus 0.2. So I have 0.8, 0.6, 0.4, 0.2. Okay, and say again, you don't know that. You know your whole number is 1. And so you know you have your 1. And you know there are 5 markings. Okay, so we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get to 0. When we start with 0, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to get to that long one. So we do 1 divided by 5, you get 0.2. So we know each line is 2/10. So 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1. Okay. And then how we get 1, again, 0.2, and we're adding 0.2, so we get 0.4. Okay, so we're just going by 2/10. So 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. We're going to add 2, 8, 9, 10, but we can't do 0.1. We have to carry it into the next 0, and we have 1. Okay, and I'm just writing this as a visual so you can see how it turns into 10. Okay, but when we're writing our answers, if we were going to give 1 ml, we would want to just write 1. We don't want this trailing 0 here because it looks like 10. Okay, and if you're having trouble with this, chapter 5 of your The Nurse, the Med, the Math book also goes over it. If you just need kind of like a more like picture or direct words, and I'll post the page number on this slide too so you guys know where to go.